Kevin here is curious about using spring water with third wave water minerals. The vast majority of flavor that's in your coffee is influenced by what's in the water. It can make a great cup of coffee or it can destroy a cup of coffee. But spring water can be a bit of a moving target, so we don't recommend using third wave water with it. So what really matters when it comes to water for coffee? You see, water is really complex and mysterious. It's been around since the dinosaurs, it doesn't actually conduct electricity on its own, and it makes up 98% of what's in your coffee. Getting back to Kevin's question, he's curious about using spring water with third wave water minerals. He's getting close to something that's really important, but he's just not quite there yet. He knows that you need to add some sort of minerals to some sort of water as a base. But let's do a couple of tests to reveal the spring water trick that so many people fall for when it comes to water for their coffee. Let's compare these 3 jugs of water. One is distilled, one is spring water, and one is our local tap water from here in Ohio. Now let's compare the different TDS measurements of each one. TDS is a fairly generic measurement that just shows there's some amount of something in your water. We just don't know exactly what. It is also a very high-level view of hardness. It's not going to tell you what kind of hardness, but more on that in a minute. Now looking at these 3 jugs of water, you can see that the spring water has a TDS of about 190. The tap water from here in Ohio has a TDS of about 380, and the distilled water has a TDS of 0. Now when I brew coffee with these 3 different types of water, the distilled water tastes kind of flat with no real pop of flavor. Our delicious local tap water tastes muddy with muted flavors, and it's a lot more bitter as well. But the spring water tastes best. It's not super harsh or bitter, and it has a lot more flavor behind it. Well, that's a good thing, right? This is the spring water trick that so many people fall for and where most people stop their testing. Most people believe that water with more TDS means your coffee is going to taste worse. But what actually matters is what that generic TDS number is made up of. Let me explain. The truth is, your local tap water has a lot of odd and strange allowable contaminants, and the spring water has an unknown amount of various minerals with the wrong type of hardness that would require a plethora of different water test kits in order to discern. Meanwhile, distilled water has nothing in it at all. This is what we call empty water. It has no minerals, it has no chemicals, and it has no organics in it. So don't fall for the spring water trick, Kevin. It's a question mark that can be a complete waste of your time if you're looking for the best and most consistent water for your coffee. Let's dive a little deeper into all the options for empty water, since not everybody has a Walmart, Kroger, or Publix nearby. On the back of Third Wave Water's packaging, you'll notice a bottle of distilled water, but this isn't the only type of water that we recommend. If you don't have easy access to distilled water, something like reverse osmosis, deionized water, or water from a zero water pitcher are going to be great options. Also, no particular brand of distilled water is better than another. The cheap stuff from Walmart is going to work just as well as the expensive stuff from Whole Foods. Most distilled water is safe to drink, but it's always best to make sure that your jug is labeled safe for consumption before using it to make your coffee. As a side note, using a TDS meter is one of the best ways to ensure that your water is truly empty before adding minerals back in. Sometimes RO filters can begin to fail, so it's always best practice to try this just to make sure that your system is running smoothly. Now that Kevin's using empty water, we can fix his other problem with spring water, the hardness. Third Wave Water's espresso machine profile has a TDS of about 150 with a total hardness of about 220. We picked that 150 TDS number thanks to some of the OG coffee scientists. The original target range for TDS was anywhere between 75 and 250, so we picked a number right in the middle to replicate. Now it's time to do some math, but don't worry, it's going to be really simple, I promise. Total hardness is made up of 2 different things: temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Only one kind of hardness causes scale. That's temporary. When you boil or freeze water that contains temporary hardness, the minerals will separate from the water and they won't dissolve again. Permanent hardness minerals don't cause scale because they're still soluble after separating from the water. There's a really easy experiment that we can do to illustrate this. Here we have 2 different beakers. One of them is filled with tap water and the other one is filled with third wave water. Now we're going to boil them off and compare the differences. When we add distilled water back into these beakers, we can see that the tap water minerals don't dissolve back into the water, but the third wave water minerals, the permanent hardness, are able to dissolve back into the water and not cause any scale to build up. When you know that you're only adding permanent hardness minerals into your water, total hardness doesn't matter, because no matter what, it's not going to cause any limescale to form in your kettle, coffee maker, or espresso machine. All 6 of Third Wave Water's profiles are made with only permanent hardness to keep your coffee tasting great and to keep your equipment lasting longer. But what does matter is using an empty base like distilled or reverse osmosis water, so you know that you're going to be getting consistent results every single time. As always, let us know if you have any questions in the comments below, and if you like this video, you'll probably want to check out this one next.